Hey everyone, this is Jake Summers on AM 97.5 with your Ag Update for March 17th, 2025. Farmers are getting hit hard right now. Commodity prices are tanking, with corn and soy barely breaking even. Add to that some brutal weather, scorching heat waves out west, relentless rain flooding the Midwest, and storms ripping through the south. Fields are taking a beating, yields are down, and margins are razor thin. It's a tough scene out there, but these growers are resilient. Stay tuned for more. This is AM 97.5, keeping it real.
Every one of us gives, 110%, and we tend to make it through, praying that this one will be the same. If it was easy, everybody'd do it. The color of it, is that golden that you see coming into the tank in the fall. Reminds you of money. No, we're empty. Everything gives me a little gray hair on the farm. Yeah, just whenever you're ready. No, I didn't. They did. We just had never struck a deal up or whatever. But I think they're still, they're still talking to us. So we just hadn't ever come to.
It's only got one bay on this one to open up to stand on, so you have to hit that fucking catwalk just right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's March 18th, and we're just finishing up the planter. It's almost field ready. Don't try this at home. We're going to throw some seed in it maybe later this afternoon and see if we have some bugs. More than likely we do. And we're still a couple of weeks out before we start. Usually somewhere around the very last week of March or the first week of April, we're actually in the field with the planters planting. So our plan is, and nothing ever goes as planned, but our plan is to put some seed and fertilizer in the planter, check it on just a small portion of land, an acre or two, see if everything's working, see what isn't working, and then hopefully we have time to get whatever parts we need on here before our go date. And that way, whenever it is time to go to the field, we can just plant and not have to be worrying with something that we should have worried with 2 weeks ago. So that's the plan, and inevitably something will always backfire and we'll have a breakdown that we weren't expecting, or something that we thought was fixed that wasn't, that we'll probably be monkeying with on the start day. But we'll try to work most of the kinks out best we can this week. So we grow number 2 yellow here. It's just just the common commodity corn. So most of the corn will be used as a feed for livestock. Part of it will be used for ethanol. But most of the food we grow here isn't, or most of the corn we're growing here isn't feed grade, like tortilla chips and stuff. That's mostly white corn, and normally we'll just grow number 2 yellow. We don't grow the food grade corn here very often. So right now everything is fixed and we feel like in good repair. We didn't have any major issues that we knew about closing out the season last year. So it was mostly just general maintenance, fixing small little minor broken wear parts here and there, and we feel like everything's ready. So I made, we throw some corn in here and some fertilizer in a few minutes, and I may tell you something different, but we think right now that everything is in pretty good shape. With the new high-tech, this is a high-speed planter. So it's electric drive, and it has belts that actually take the seed to the ground. And with these planters comes a lot of wiring and hydraulic hookups, and just hooking them up, you need an engineer for. And this morning we had everything hooked up, and the planter just sitting there, and it's got a hydraulic downforce system where it actually applies hydraulic pressure to the units to hold them in the ground, and the planter was shimmying. So that's not a normal thing you see with this planter. There's probably something, a minor setting or something we haven't figured out yet. Maybe the hydraulic pressure was turned up too high or too low. I hadn't got in there and really dialed that problem out yet, but just getting everything hooked up and ready to try is a job in itself.
And it's just got an orange ring around it that says nothing.
I got my markers tied back. I personally like the 8RX just for its ability to, one, I can carry my fertilizer pretty easily. It doesn't overburden the tractor very much, and the ride on this thing is fantastic. It's a long season. We spend a lot of hours in the machines, especially on the corn planter, and the ride of this machine and the comfort of the cab, it'll keep you in there a couple extra hours every day, where a normal tractor, you just get beat up, especially over the course of a long season. And you still will with this tractor as well, but a little less beat up. You appreciate it when you get 45, 46 years old. So labor situations has always been a little sketchy, but we hope we've addressed it this coming season. We've got some H2 workers from Mexico coming. We're excited to have those guys on the farm. They'll be here in about 20 days, I think, 25 days. So about middle of April, they'll be here on the ground and hopefully aiding us along in our corn growing journey. There's multiple challenges every season, but our biggest one we're up against this year is very low commodity prices, and relatively, I wouldn't say our inputs are exorbitantly high, but they're higher than they should be for the current price of the commodity. So the challenge is to be very efficient with the inputs that you need, which is your fertilizer, your fuel, your herbicides, your insecticides, your seed, to be most efficient with them as you can, to try to at least be a slight bit profitable in 2025. It's going to be a difficult journey to be profitable in any commodity this year. It's just a challenging environment. It's difficult to take a ton of risk on, which all U.S. farmers take on as they put all their money towards the current year's crop. And the fear that you have is you've put all your money all your time and your guys and gals time into that crop, and then bringing the crop back in, and it either being at break even or actually below break even, where you either just return the money that you put in on the investment, or you actually, bring in less money than it actually took to put the crop out. And I mean, in farming and in any business, you're going to have times that are bad, and it's not always going to be good each and every year. You gotta bank on the bad times, because they're going to be more prevalent than the good times. But it's discouraging to put all that time and effort into something and then seeing a negative return at the end. You just never want to see that. It's hard to get up and want to do your job for anybody, knowing that basically you did it for free. Every different small ecosystem is different across the United States. Some of us are too dry. Some of us, like here at this farm, a lot of times we're too wet at the wrong times, and then we get when we need it to rain, it doesn't. So weather is always a challenge. That's just, and it's different every year. Sometimes you don't get enough sunlight. Sometimes you get heat at the wrong time when you don't need it. Sometimes you get cool weather when you when you don't need it. Sometimes you just planted a crop and it comes a 5-inch rain on top of a freshly planted field, and all the oxygen goes out of the dirt and your seed perishes. So weather's a challenge. It's just something that you have to get used to as a farmer, and you're going to anticipate some weather challenges throughout the season. That's something that each and every year, we know that there's going to be several times during that season when the weather has given us a significant challenge, just because of timing or because of certain weather events that happen in most of the time. If you get a significant weather event, it's at a time in the year when you don't need it the most. So Murphy's Law. Right there at the section.
Go you get the discharge hose. What's this for?
I don't know. I saw that. I don't know what's
I want to push and pull shit so I can't put the standard. I don't know what none of this shit for. They got extra air hookups back here for something. They got air trap wires. They got air trap plugged in right here for something. Hey.
It says to remove, push down. I don't want to remove it.
Can't get it back on.
Fine, and I'll wait till Pop gets here. He'll do it.
I guess I could pull it in there, kinda.
You can go and start it, pull it up in there while I go get this discharge hose.
Yeah.
I'll go to Wilson and get the one off the tanker. $50,000 trailer, they didn't give us no damn discharge hoses. One basket. All right, we're right back.
All right, so we're getting ready to put down some liquid, and gonna try to figure out how to put the liquid in this trailer. So never done it, never used this machine before. New trailer to us, and just trying to figure out how to get my valve situated here so I can draw out of my big tank. This is my unload. Really, the only way would be is if I'd have to get a hose and run it up to my top from here, because this is your discharge side. So I'd either have to gravity feed it from the tank into the tanker, or I'd have to put a hose on this discharge, and I might be able to put it in right there, possibly. I'm gonna say that's open. No, we're empty. I think the things I worry about most is just making sure that we cover all our bases, make sure that all our our landlords are taken care of like they need to be, our employees are taken care of like they need to be, our family is taken care of like it needs to be, making sure that I'm very consistent in all the things that I do, where I'm not leaving one end untied just because I'm focused too much on another one. To me, that's my biggest challenge in life, is just making sure that that I'm consistent with all the people that need me to be consistent. And when you're up against a high risk game like farming, and you're being stressed at every angle, it's easy to let certain things out of your life slip, like not giving your family enough priority, or not spending time with a landlord that had a trouble that needed to be fixed. It's making sure that all those things are covered adequately, and so that everybody's needs are taken care of. To me, that is the biggest challenge. I can remember the 80s, and we had some pretty terrible ones in the 80s, but the worst one that I've ever seen in my life was 2012. It was a nationwide drought. Here in Western Kentucky, I want to say that it stopped raining in March, and we didn't get rain again until October. And it was a fun year because we farmed a little bit in April, and then the rest of the year we looked for arrowheads. So everything was burned up out of the field. I remember this field here just west of the shop, we had a pioneer plot in, and it looked fantastic growing off because the weather was super warm when we planted it, and the moisture was adequate. But we harvested the entire plot, I think, for 13 bushels of corn, and it was a big plot. So a lot of the fields were zero, didn't make anything. I saw corn yield as high that year as 70 or 80, but that was the top end yield of any of the fields. So terrible grain year. And I'm sure at some point in my life I'll see another one that is equivalent to that drought, but you don't see them very often. I know my southern Texas friends are in a multi-year drought, and I think that drought's kind of expanded up into the upper Midwest. And for a time last year, I thought the Ohio Valley, which we're situated in here, we're in the lower Ohio Valley, I felt like we had gone into drought, but we kind of broke out of that with Hurricane Helene, and it's just been wet ever since. But they're kind of forecasting drought here, and we haven't had a significant drought since 2012. So we're due one, and I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't the year. Every year has lots of challenges. Every year is a little different with its challenges, and the way we do it is we just get in there and we fight tooth and nail, and every one of us gives 110%, and we tend to make it through. So praying that this one will be the same. So after today, we'll begin to start making herbicide applications to our cornfields, getting them cleaned up, and so when the planters cross them, there won't be anything out there except dirt and residue. And we'll also begin to apply some of our dry fertilizers. That a lot of them are applied in the winter or in the late fall, but the ones that we didn't get done last fall, we'll begin to do this spring. So making herbicide applications, making fertilizer applications, and then after that, it's just get the planters in the field and try to keep them running best we can, and just go hard every day. With our growing season, we'd like to be in the field by the last week of March, and it'll take us maybe to the end of May to get all our fields planted. You'd like to say, well, I have it done in 2 weeks, but that's never the case, just because of weather, breakdowns, field conditions, all those different things. Usually by the time we get all our plantings done, we're towards the end of May. after May, we start to focus on wheat harvest. Wheat harvest comes the first week of June, usually lasts 7 to 10 days. After that, we do our double crop plantings. And then after the double crop plantings, we just focus on herbicide applications, mowing road ditches, mowing roadsides, making sure that we don't have weed escapes throughout the field, monitoring for disease pressure like southern rust, tar spot, all the different diseases that can pop up along the course of the season. It's mostly scouting, monitoring those things, and making sure that we haven't let something slip. Like I said, we hope to be planting by the last week of March. So, you know, a lot of it's contingent on weather and the field conditions. If the fields are dry, even if it's a little cool, we'll go ahead and start planting. And I'll tend to try to get my kind of like my middle of the road fields planted first, the ones that maybe aren't the highest yielders, but they're not the lowest. And then we try to we have a sweet spot here for corn growing. It's usually about the 15th of April to the 25th. That's kind of like the perfect, to me, just if you could pick a set of dates each and every year that would create the most fantastic yield, it would be in those dates. We try to plant our best land inside those dates. It doesn't always work out like that, but that's what we'll try to do. And then after that, you know, the ground that tends to lay a little wetter, it takes a little longer to dry out, we'll plant them last. So late April, early May, and that ground that kind of lays wet tends to dry out. And once it gets dry, it gets overly dry. And so you want that planted in the best condition you can get it in, because ultimately, the better the field conditions, the better the crop can turn out. And in a piece of dirt that is not very forgiving, just because of its like the amount of water holding capacity it has, you want those acres that are marginal to be planted in the best conditions possible, which is usually once the temperatures heat up into the high 70s, low 80s, which is generally here May. When you plant in the mud, what tends to happen is you get like a hatchet root situation where the dirt hardens around the seed and the seed can't escape the V trench that the planter dug. So what will happen is, instead of the corn roots going out at angles and down, the corn root just wants to grow along the trench in a vertical line. It just kind of jams the roots in a line, and because of that, it can't access the fertility it needs to access. What happens is you, in a year where it's wet all the time, it's not as big a deal, because ultimately it takes water to flush fertility into the plant. But in a year where you're dry and you start to get drought and your corn roots are jammed into just a line down your trench, that very top layer dries out. The corn can't take adequate moisture up, and because of that, it can't run fertility through itself, and it just starts to starve. It'll cannibalize the stalk will get weak, then it wants to fall, and not put on the ear that it's capable of putting on, just because it can't get the minerals it needs out of the ground. Farming, if it was easy, everybody'd do it. Yeah.